Hey, Tryston, it's so great to connect with you. Thanks for meeting with me so that you could share your academic and career path with our current students.
Yeah, of course. Glad to participate.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so let's start out with where you grew up. If it was in Santa Cruz County, which high school did you go to? And then how did you get interested in engineering and why did you decide to come to Cabrillo?
Yeah. So I was actually born in like Pacifica, so up the coast a little bit. So most of my upbringing was there. Had a short stint in Washington for a couple years, and then my sophomore year, I came to Santa Cruz County. And so we lived in Mount Herman or Felton area. And so I went to Coast Redwood High School, which is a charter high school. So at that time, Coast Redwood, I was able to do, a combination of homeschool, some classes at the charter, and then some classes at SLV, San Lorenzo Valley, and then also the regional occupation program, the SLV ROP program there. So yeah, that was kind of my upbringing. Loved living in Santa Cruz and just being surrounded by the redwoods and yeah. So and then yeah, after high school, well, also I guess in high school I also took classes at Cabrillo too, doing my math and all of that, and then after high school graduation went to Cabrillo.
Okay. And how did you get interested in engineering? Or did you come to Cabrillo not being sure what area you wanted to study?
Yeah, I would say my dad, he was always just very hands-on. I think growing up, he was always, building something or repairing the cars and whatnot. And I was always like right there by his side, even, when I was, way yeast, yeah, very small
Mm,
person. But so I think just having that exposure, just being around him and working and building on stuff. But I didn't really have a good concept of what an engineer was. I thought engineer, they work on engines. I don't know, maybe they're a mechanic. But I think I knew I wanted to build things. My dad was in the trades. And that was probably likely the way I would have gone if college wasn't going to be an option. But I ended up getting like some medical things, and I was like, I don't know if the trades would be sustainable for me in the long run. So I did go on like a mission trip to where did I go? I went to Honduras. It was a dental mission trip. But just going down there, just seeing the poverty and lack of development, and just hearing the stories of the locals and how they would build their homes up alongside the rivers. And every winter there'd be a big storm that would flush their homes out, and then they'd rebuild. And also just the element of like I couldn't just drink water out of the tap that really hit me. And I think it just made me wonder, well, like we have access to all these good things in the States. Why can't other countries have that? And I think that started to push my interest towards that. I didn't really know what that meant, but I think eventually my high school teacher kind of pointed it out to me, and she said, "Hey, you like working with your hands and whatnot. Maybe you should be an engineer." And then I started looking into it and looking into kind of like the environmental engineering world. So, yeah.
cool. And then what made you choose Cabrillo? And what were you involved in at Cabrillo?
Yeah, so I chose Cabrillo because it was in the community that I lived in. I didn't want to go straight to a four-year college. So I think I didn't want to take the SAT. So you don't have to take the SAT if you go to the community college. And yeah, it was just more affordable option for me and whatnot. So I ended up going to Cabrillo. And then when I was there, I think yeah, so I started part-time in high school and then full-time after graduation. There's two clubs I was really involved in. It was the Crew, which was a Christian club on campus. So we held Bible studies on campus and just held discussions about spiritual things, and then also was involved in the engineering abroad program. So, which was really like up my alley, and like, what I wanted to do as an engineer. So I think my first year there, I was an alternate for the program. And then my second year, I was a delegate and got to actually go to Guatemala.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the projects? How about talk about the projects you worked on in Guatemala?
Sure. Yeah, I think the first year, again, I was an alternate, so that one's a
All
little
right.
more
Yeah,
fuzzy for
talk.
me.
You could just talk about the one you went on.
Yeah, but the second one, so it was the same community, but we were just coming back to assist with. And I think on my year, it was kind of two main projects. A there was a well that had run dry. So I think half of our group was focusing on putting a timer in place to prevent the pump from running too long to where it would dry out the well, because I think that was the issue. Their pump burnt out,
Mm.
or the motor burnt out. And then so there was some electrical work that went into that, and then the other half of the group that I was kind of working with, we did the storage tank. So from the well, it was being pumped up the hill into, I think it was like maybe two 500-gallon storage tanks alongside the road. So we did some trenching work to add the piping into the storage tanks. We kind of built I don't know, earth foundation of sorts, just on the side of the road, and then yeah, and so
Cool.
that was kind of
Great.
the project.
Thanks. And then once you were nearing your completion at Cabrillo, I imagine you
Mm.
applied to a few schools, and then I know you went to Sac State. So will you talk a little bit about that process or what made you decide to go to Sac State?
Yeah, so I I believe I applied to four schools: Humboldt, San Jose, Cal Poly SLO, Sac State. So all of those schools just had different reasons for interest, but my goal was always to go to Cal Poly SLO because I wanted to be an environmental engineer, and they had an environmental program. So, and they were one of the few schools that I knew that had an environmental program in California. Yeah, I applied. I ended up getting into all four of my schools, and so I was like, okay, well, now I have to pick one, making it even harder. But I think what really helped me in my decision process was um, going and visiting the schools. So that was a big thing. So I went and visited. Well, I visited Sac State and Cal Poly SLO because those are kind of the two main ones I was seriously considering. And then also just life circumstances. At the time, I was dating a girl, and I was pretty sure I wanted to marry her, and we ended up getting married, and we are married now and have a 6-month-old son. And so I think location was a big deal for that. Uh, we were already long distance because she was living in Vallejo, I was living in Santa Cruz, but going to Cal Poly SLO would have made it even more long distance and harder. So there was a pool to Sacramento. I wasn't even like aware that Sacramento State existed, let alone have an engineering program. But I applied anyways. So that was an aspect of it. And then the cost of living was a big one. Just looking at the expenses. Okay, how am I going to afford rent? How am I going to afford books, tuition, all of that? Cost of living was cheaper in Sacramento, and the tuition was cheaper, and they offered me more financial aid. So all of the math classes that I took helped me just look at the two options and be like, well, this one's more cost effective. And then,
Yeah.
like I said, visiting the schools, I think um, in my experience, when I went down to Cal Poly, they had really cool, equipment and, labs and things like that. And the campus was beautiful. But I just noticed that the students, they just looked pretty like exhausted and worn out. But when I went to Sac State, they were an older campus, pretty flat campus. Cal Poly's got all these hills, but a little different, but still a pretty campus. But the students had a smile on their face, so
Mm.
that kind of stood out to me. And I engineering school is hard. It's really hard. But I wanted to have a smile on my face
Yeah.
than look like I was
Yeah.
suffering. So that was kind of my decision process. Um, you know,
Thanks for sharing that.
yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so then when you were at Sac State, maybe talk about going to Sac State a little bit. Were you involved in any clubs? What were the capstone projects? What were some things that were highlights for you at Sac State?
Yeah, so at Sac State, I ended up being just a civil engineer. They didn't separate it into discipline, but I really, really like the program that they have there. It's a very true, I would say, very true civil program. Just talking to, some of my other colleagues and whatnot, sounds like um, that went to other schools. They don't, maybe you do some of the other disciplines and whatnot, but at Sac State, you're required to take a class in every single discipline and a lab in every single discipline. And I think it was actually really advantageous for me just to be exposed to all the different disciplines of civil engineering. And also like preparation for, your FE and PE exams and whatnot. So yeah, I went there. It kind of felt like a big community college at Sac
Mm.
State, which was a plus for me too, because I didn't really want to, party and all that. I just wanted to go to school and go home and
Yeah.
and get my degree. So I like that element of it. It's a very simple school, but also the professors there. Um, I'm pretty sure all of them were working in addition to on campus, they were working in industry as a consultant of sorts. So they had, real life examples that they could bring into the classroom to just educate us further and kind of just make engineering more real.
Mm.
And I would say their program was also just well well put together in the sense that I feel like it made me more job ready. They gave good, just practical tools. It wasn't, high theory. Of course, there was an element of theory, but you know, there's like okay, here's the lab for the transpo. There's Civil 3D. Okay, let's do some basics with that. They had a GIS course, which is really important for engineers to be familiar with, and a lot of employers are looking for. So
Mm.
I got to be familiar with how to use GIS, and also like I did like a open channel flow class. We used HEC-RAS and did a model, and the each of the courses also kind of had like a little design project element to it too. So you got to kind of work in a small team of people and yeah, prepare reports
Mm.
and all that. So they had a lot of good options there. And like I said, I think they make you job ready. So
Yeah, it sounds great. And you probably had a senior project.
I did,
Do you want to
yes.
describe it briefly?
Yeah, so our senior project was, so every year it's a transpo project at Sac State. And I think they do that because the transpo projects tend to hit all the disciplines pretty
Mm.
well.
Okay.
So of course you're doing your transportation, you got to, do your, your runoff calculations, you got to design a bridge, all those elements
Mm.
they hit. So that's kind of their setup. And then I think so when I was there, it was a 1 semester class. I think they just changed it to where it's a 2 semester long course. But when I was there, I was on a project team of 5. I ended up being the PM for the project. And then each project team had like a consultant that's actually working in industry, kind of be their engineering mentor. So our project was the Wheatland bypass, basically just a highway bypass around like a protected area. So it had I think it was maybe like a 3 mile stretch, if I recall correctly, and a few bridges and all that. So yeah, it was a fun, simple theoretical
Cool.
project. I think something that they were actually intending to build, but so who knows, maybe some of our work got referenced, but
Oh, that's
yeah,
good.
it was a good project.
Okay. And while you were going through Sac State, did you wind up having any internships and or talk about what you did once you graduated and where you're working?
Yeah, so well, when I was at Cabrillo, I was a lifeguard and a zipline tour guide.
I remember.
So that was fun. But as I was getting towards the end of yeah, of college, I kind of had to find something that would help me, get a job out of college easier. So I started uh actually being just on campus jobs, and then eventually I got to apply to the State Water Resources Control Board, and I got an internship with them in the Division of Financial Assistance. And I think this also just adds to like the benefit of going to Sac State that I didn't realize when I applied is you're in the capital and there's a lot of government agencies in the capital, in addition to private consulting firms. So there's a lot of opportunity for students at Sac State to get internships. I would argue maybe even more than at Cal Poly.
Mhm.
So for me at least, it was a good opportunity to um, get to work with the regulators and understand what are the regulations, how do projects get funded, what are the different design processes, and all of that. So I worked with them for about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. And where are you working now?
Yeah, so well, after I graduated, I worked for like a design build firm, and we did stormwater, really, yeah, stormwater management. So for construction, for the construction general permit, and also for the industrial general permit, which is it's all falls under the National Pollutant Discharge and Elimination System, NPDES, which is all about uh, controlling how much contaminants we discharge into our U.S. waterways. So I did that for about a year, and then it was a really good experience. Was in the field a lot, doing a lot of inspections, and just working with contractors, and then yeah, writing SWIPs and things like that. Stormwater pollution prevention plan. That's what a SWIP is. Yeah, so just all about protecting the fishies, which, you know, I wanted to be an environmental engineer, and yeah, so I got to do it for a little bit. And then I wasn't getting as much design experience, so I applied to the firm that I'm at now. Been here for about 3 years, and so it's called Ludorf and Scalmanini Consulting Engineers, and we are drinking water consultants. So we have a firm of probably less than about 50 folks. Our headquarters are in Woodland, California. We have offices all throughout California and then one office in Idaho. But we are like the groundwater experts in Northern California. So we have a team of geologists and hydrogeologists and then engineers. So I get to work on groundwater wells, ground and pumps that go in them. So these wells are anywhere from 200 feet deep to 600 feet deep, or even 1,000 feet deep. So yeah, do a lot of that. A lot of distribution projects, storage tank projects, treatment projects. Well, yeah, permitting
Wow.
assistance, all sorts of things. So yeah.
Okay. Wow, that's great. So even though you got your civil degree, you really are working in environmental as well. That's
Yes,
great.
yes.
That's
Yeah.
excellent. So, and then Kalika works there as well.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
she
She's
she
finishing up her master's right now. And
yeah, she just had her capstone, I think last Friday.
yeah,
And then yeah, she's moving back home and
yeah,
gonna join you guys
yeah, she's been
on the
teaching. Yeah, she's going to
the
be
CAD
teaching.
team.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
yeah,
Cool.
excited for her. But yeah, you never know when, your paths are going to cross with Cabrillo folks again. So be nice.
Okay, so the last two questions are kind of overarching. So the first one is, how has your engineering degree impacted your quality of life? Or what opportunities do you experience that you wouldn't have experienced without the engineering degree?
Yeah. So yes, I would say impacted my quality of life. I definitely have a higher earning potential than I would with probably most other careers. Or like, for example, I said I wanted to be in the trades. It was a thought in high school. I think I have a higher earning potential than I would have had, and also not having to be, laboriously working all the time. Those are definitely very important professions, and we need them. But at least for me, it worked better in that sense. And with the higher earning potential, it does come with a lot more responsibility. So there is a lot more tacked on stress and whatnot, but it is a good responsibility. But yeah, I think just the comfort of, um, yeah, I think, well, of course, budgeting goes with it. It's inflow and outflow. You need to just be wise
Right.
with that. But I think at least for us, we're able to live comfortably. My wife doesn't have to work full time. She can work part time and stay home with our son. And yeah, I think we're able to just be generous with our finances, whether that
Mm,
be at our church or just with friends and family. So yeah, I think it's impacted us in a lot of ways.
right. Okay, and the second big question is, what's a suggestion you have for current engineering students on their educational path or their career? So maybe something that you learned now that you look back and you say, oh, this is what I would have done differently. Something that you learned about that you'd like students who are watching this video take advantage of.
Yeah, I think, well, I would say if you're at Cabrillo, you're in a quality program, engineering program. At least talking to some of the young guys at my church and their engineering programs, it doesn't the community colleges up here don't sound like they're as great as Cabrillo. So you're in a good place, and part of the good thing that I received when I was there was there's a mentorship program. I don't know if you guys still have that.
It's
Um,
similar. It's
okay.
similar.
Yeah, so I think just getting connected with people in industry was really helpful. I could talk to them and figure out what, their career path was, what kind of projects they were working on. So I would really encourage like going and just talking to people, talking to engineers, asking them what they do, what they like, what they hate. The engineering field it's so broad. You can go into so many different avenues, but uh, you need to know what those are,
Yeah.
and you need to be bold enough to ask good questions. So always be asking questions and be curious. It'll make you a better, well-rounded engineer. I mean, I got my degree in civil engineering, but I do a whole gamut of different work, and I even do some mechanical engineering type work, with pumps and motors and all of that. So it's just be curious and ask lots of questions,
Yeah.
from people. And then I would also say, just take time to just enjoy life a little bit, enjoy family. Um, and definitely, I think for me, I was I was working so hard at Cabrillo and in college. I think I missed out on, just enjoying Santa Cruz, or, being spending time with my family. And so you do, and there's a natural consequence to that, just because engineering education is very hard and difficult. So there are sacrifices that come with that. But definitely just make sure to just take time to enjoy the people, enjoy your community, because you really need them in order to get through engineering school, because
Yeah.
it's very difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. In a way, there's no reason to rush through your
Yes.
education process,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
You could do well and maybe take one less class so that you could enjoy
Yes.
what you're doing. And yeah, the whole idea of interacting with engineers that came before you, you could learn a lot on then choosing your path. And that's
Yes.
one reason that I'm doing these videos,
Yeah.
so that people could look up and see what your degree is and where you're working and what you're working on. And they could start watching these videos and learn more. So it's
Yeah.
not just there's not just an in-person mentorship by connecting with local civil engineers, but there's also this mentorship outside from alumni that may not be in the area anymore. And you
Yeah.
could still
Yeah.
connect with them. Oh, hang on. Okay, Tryston. Well, thank you. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Of
Just
course.
hang on. I'm going to stop the video, okay?
Okay.